Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. More than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan. I am here for 3 hours every week talking about the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. The outdoor experience does not end at our state line. And occasionally, some of us here in our state like to venture beyond Michigan to see what else is out there. And it's fun, and I encourage you to do that. But, you know, Michigan is one of those states where we really don't need to leave. There's so much going on here. So many great hunting activities and fishing activities and travel activities and boating activities. It's a wonderful state. I am an unapologetic fanboy for the state of Michigan. Is it perfect here? Absolutely not. Are there things that could be better? Of course. But I have been blessed throughout my career, especially when I had the TV show, where that TV camera opened a lot of doors. If you were going to give somebody exposure on a TV show about their operation, about their hunting, about their fishing, about their area, they would welcome you in. So as a result, I had a chance to go to Africa a couple of times. I had a chance to go to Alaska a couple of times, Mexico a few times, all across Canada, all across this country. And there are some beautiful, beautiful places out there. And there are some wonderful resources out there. But always, every time, every trip, I was anxious to get back home. And not just because I wanted to get home and see my family and friends and get back to my own house and such, but I wanted to get back to Michigan. This is a great state. It really, really is. For those of us who love the outdoors, I am convinced this is the best state out there. Can you believe that it's now August? Again, how did that happen? It was just Memorial Weekend. Now we got Labor Day looking at us. There's still time. I know summertime is winding down, but there is still time to get your family out on that camping trip, that road trip, that scenic drive. Gas prices have you nervous. I get it. But how can you put a price on memories? When it's February and it's 10 degrees out and there's 2 feet of snow, you're going to say, man, I wish we would have whatever. Do it. Do it. I find myself in an interesting mindset right now. My fishing season is basically wrapping up, and I'm starting to make the transition over to hunting season. Now, I know there's still lots of great fishing out there, and if I was still a salmon fisherman, the best time of the year would be coming up. But I am primarily a walleye fisherman, a Saginaw Bay walleye fisherman. And I'll tell you this, I continue to be pleasantly surprised on how good the Inner Bay walleye fishery is holding up. My last couple of trips have been just very, very good trips. We found fish one day in 12 feet of water, trolling number 7 flicker shads, number 7 flicker minnows. Pretty straightforward, basic, as easy as you want to, fishing as you want to be. I took another group of buddies out the next day in that same water. Couldn't find fish. Now, let me ask you this. Where do those fish go, right? When they're there one day and they're not there the next. Or here's a better question. When you make a troll through a school of fish and you pick up a half a dozen fish on the troll, and then you turn around and come right back through that school of fish and they don't bite, what happened? What changed? But that's the thing about walleye. They will turn a switch off and on. Well, they'll turn off and on like a switch. So we were in 12 feet of water one day, got some fish. Went out the next day, couldn't find any fish. I thought, well, let's go deep. I went out to 25 feet of water, which for me is unheard of, and we got a limit of fish out there. Number 7 flicker shads, number 7 flicker minnows, using the 50 plus 2 method, let 50 feet out, put a 2-ounce snap weight on, and let out additional length of line. Running number 30 jet divers in front of spoons on the other side, 40 to 100 feet back. The fish were deep, but there were a few of them up high that were feeding as well. So I basically ended my summertime Saginaw Bay walleye fishing on a very high note. We ended up with a limit of fish. I like that. The water temp was 75 degrees, so I expect that there will be some good fishing for a while. And those who are not getting ready for hunting season and continue to fish are going to enjoy some great action. But I am in this transition now. Now I'm making the move over to hunting. Yes, I know you can do both. You can do hunting and you can do fishing, but I tend to be a little bit intense, or maybe more accurately, when you have limited time, you have to choose your passion, choose your vice. So from the time you're hearing this show, it'll be a week till I leave for White River, Ontario, Canada, on a bear hunt. So the time that I would normally be spending fishing, I'm going to be spent behind the dart and crossbow, making sure it's dialed in, getting my hunting gear around, making sure my Wraith blinds are all good to go, making sure I got a lot of Thermacell juice and Thermacells because the bugs are going to be terrible up there. Also, I'm very excited to try this piece of gear that Bob Ransom of Primal Tree Stands told me about last week on the show. By the time I get home from recording the show today, it should be on my porch. It should be delivered today. It's called the Blind Spot. And it's a remote camera that you put up on your blind so you can see behind you, and you control it with your phone. I'm thinking what I want to do, because I know where I'm going to be hunting. Well, I think I know where I'm going to be hunting in White River. And you can't see anything behind you anyway. It's bush so thick you can't see through it. But I don't know. What's the range on this camera? Can I take this camera? Because keep in mind, when you're hunting bears over bait, you know kind of where they're going to come from. I mean, you can look and see the trail. I call it a runway, like a deer runway, but it's bear. You know basically where they're coming from, even though you can't necessarily see because the bush is so thick. So I'm thinking if I take one of these blind spot cameras, these remote cameras, and I put it over by the bait and I point it down the trail or the runway the bears are coming in, even though I can't see them with my eye, maybe I can get a heads up looking at them on my phone. Now, here's the bigger question. Is that it's legal, yes. But is it right? Is it ethical? Is it getting too technologically advanced that it's no longer the right thing to do? I can't make that statement because I haven't used it yet. When I use it and get a feel for it, I'll let you know. But I will tell you this, and I can't verify this, but I heard this from some buddies of mine who should know. Like the, what do they call that? The active view or the target view, whatever it is on these new sonar units that allow you to look out to the side or look in front in real-time action and see fish and see how they react to your baits. I've heard that some of the muskie tournaments have banned that technology. So there is a fine line, right, between using technology to enjoy our outdoor experiences and be as effective as possible, and then crossing the line. Where is it? I'm not going to say where that line is. Some traditional archery say crossbows have crossed the line, which is, in my opinion, ridiculous. But I'll let you know. What else? Oh, I did find... Last time I was out, this was an interesting experience. When I used to fish Lake Michigan, I was used to seeing commercial nets out there. And there are commercial nets on Saginaw Bay, but I had never seen one before in this particular area that I had spent all summer. And that was kind of a surprise. Now, this one was well marked. I have to admit, this net was well marked. And you'd really have to be not paying attention to run into it, which can happen. I mean, when you're trolling away and you're looking at the back of the boat and occasionally you look around in front of you to make sure there's no boats, I mean, you might not see one of those orange markers, but... along that line, nothing more. And I realize I'm combining the non-native commercial fishermen and the tribal fishermen, but it kind of led me into this next topic here. I haven't heard anything more about the consent decree negotiations with the tribes. What I have heard, though, continues to be frustration and a sense, this is not me saying this, but this is people in the know saying that the DNR seems to be wanting to sell us out on this. So this is something to keep an eye on. Remember when I said earlier that all things are not perfect here in Michigan? I think that might be a good example. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine show after the break, Eric Long of Longline Charters checks in from Lake St. Clair. He's been having a tremendous summer down there. Walleye, muskies, smallmouth. Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews, you know their big outdoor weekend's only a month away. If you are a vendor, if you have an outdoor-related business, can you still be a part of this? Tom will let us know about that. In hour number 2, John Bergsma of Great Lakes Fisherman's Digest tells us about the hot bites around Michigan right now. Chad Stewart from the DNR, he has some answers to questions about this mandatory deer check-in for the season coming up. Some people aren't happy about it. I want to get Chad's reaction to that. Then Lieutenant Jason Wicklund, this week's Ask Avery segment. How many fish can you keep in your freezer? How long can you keep venison in your freezer and be legal? And then we're getting ready for bow season with Kevin Pritchard of Jay's Sporting Goods, and wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar wraps it all up. That's coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC on 2 stations, 600 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee, WTIQ, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine, speaking of the UP, is brought to you by Rapid River Knives, rapidriverknifeworks.us. You know that I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now, as I always do. And say, in fact, I have people come up to me, hey, Avery, can I see that knife? I know you've got it with you. So I pull it out and show them my Rapid River knife, and they agree. They are beautiful, well-made pieces of art designed to be used. They're made by craftsmen in the UP at the Rapid River Knife Works shop on US 10, just outside of Rapid River. If you get a chance while you're traveling around, stop into the shop. Tell them I said hi. Tell them I said hi and that I recommended you stop in and see it. You can buy a knife there. You can get it engraved there. If you can't make it to the showroom, you can buy their knives at retailers across the state, including Jay's Sporting Goods, or you can go directly to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, and you can order one there. Pocket knives, fillet knives, skinning knives, kitchen knives, you name it, rapidriverknifeworks.us. While you are online, I would ask you to check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then head on over to chartergreatlakes.com. Chartergreatlakes.com is the website of Longline Charters. Eric Long is the captain behind that company. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Eric, welcome back. How you doing?
Good morning, Mike.
Are you on the water cap or you got a day off?
Well, it's supposed to be. We plan on doing an on-the-water thing, but as you can see, it's blowing. We got about 20 to 30 from the south, so unfortunately we had to cancel.
There on Lake St. Clair, is there any good wind direction for you or are you in trouble if you get a strong wind from any place?
I mean, the average depth's 12 feet, so it turns up pretty quick. So, you know, that anything above 15 sustained and that 20-mile-an-hour gust really gets hard on a smaller boat. We'll typically fish if it's going to be 15 to 20. Anything more than that, we're not going to fish on our boat on the 31.
12 feet, an average depth of 12 feet. That's an interesting body of water, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it makes it, it gets hairy pretty quick, but it's, also a little bit different to fish, But yeah, it's a fun time out there. It's typically your wind direction is going to be good. If it's going to be the same as any other lake. So as far as Saginaw Bay, Lake Erie, any of those northeast are terrible. Anything like Lake St. Clair is a terrible lake, kind of strong southwest. It just gets really nasty. But, any wind direction that's bad on Lake Erie, Saginaw Bay is going to be bad on Lake St. Clair.
I'm thinking if a Lake Michigan salmon angler who's used to fishing hundreds of feet of water came over to Lake St. Clair, they wouldn't know how to fish it.
It's different. We get a lot of people that come over because the fishery is really good, and we're still getting occasional limits of walleye. Not every day, but we're still getting them. It all depends on water clarity and the amount of floating weeds. I mean, the biggest difference about that depth is, your weeds. You start getting anything shallower than 15 feet of water, and Lake St. Clair, you'll have weed growth all the way to the surface.
How in the world do you troll through or around that?
We troll around it, and then we eventually get into it. So between the floating weeds and the actual, the live weed growth, it's a challenge. So we're constantly baling hay is what we call it, really. So to be productive on Lake St. Clair, you got to get really good about reeling your rods in and then putting them back out. So it's just cycle rods. As soon as that weed growth goes in, you're cycling rods nonstop.
Well, it's not a fishery or a way of fishing for a lazy person then.
No, my mates hate me sometimes, but it's we work hard, and it's June, early July. It's typically anybody can come out there and troll, but once you get in the summertime, it's other than going really adjacent to the channel, it becomes a challenge.
So is your season wrapping up then, or how would you describe it?
No, I mean, we're still going strong. We're still doing, we call it a light tackle troll, where we target walleye, bass, muskie, pike, all in the same tackle. So it's a lighter tackle, your smaller 7-foot medium action rods, we're trolling with those. And then we're doing straight up muskie trips where, muskie tackle only. But yeah, we're busy. We're getting limits of walleye. My brother's been fishing the afternoons on his 23-foot center. And I think his last 3 trips, the least amount of walleye he got was 18, I believe. And then one day they were doing throwback. So he got a 3-man limit the last 3 days out. So.
I saw your brother on the website there, chartergreatlakes.com. Is that new, or have you guys always partnered up like that?
No, he got his captain license. I think it's 2 years now. So this is his second season running the boat. He's always fished with me. He's either made it for me, but he finally made the step up. We got him a boat 2 years ago, and he got his captain license. So he's been doing Detroit River with us. And then this year he's been doing Lake St. Clair, so he's doing like that multi-species walleye type troll, and then bass fishing and stuff like that.
Ah, nice. Well, that gives you guys some options.
Yeah, it definitely helps. I mean, I pretty much put away my center console really July 1st, and then I run the big boat all the way throughout the summer. So now at least it gives us a second boat option, so that we're not the trips. It's hard to put a 2-person trip on a 31-foot boat. So.
Yeah. And you were talking about on these multi-species trips, you're running fairly light tackle, but you do get some muskies. That's interesting to me.
Honestly, our light tackle troll has been as productive or more than productive on muskies than our typical muskie trips this year. It's been a weird year. Yeah, we're getting. I think our last 5 multi-species trips, I think the least amount of muskies we got was 2. The most was 5. And it's been wild. Like the area we're fishing, the fish are so aggressive right now. It's that time of year where it's fun to troll for them, where they're eating our inline planer boards on the surface. They're eating our spoons off the boat. They're eating bandits on boards. I think our last muskie total on a multi-species, we went 5 for 6 on muskie. Wow. And this is on 15-pound test, so it's kind of a battle. And then our biggest fish was 47. And then I think our last probably dozen trips out, we've had at least one muskie either follow a planer board to the boat or at least hit it on the surface. It's been pretty crazy.
Well, these pictures I've seen you posting are very impressive. I mean, big fish, and a lot of them held by kids, or you holding a fish in front of a kid, and everybody's got big smiles on their faces, Eric.
Yeah, our last multi-species trip, we had, I think, 4 kids, and then their grandpa, I think, took them. I believe that was it. We had an 8-year-old girl who reeled in a 47-inch muskie and about a 40, all by herself, too. She actually did better than the boys, which was funny.
So on these multi-species trips, when you're getting muskies, are you putting baits out there just for muskies, or are they hitting walleye baits?
Oh, they're hitting walleye baits. Lake St. Clair is pretty diverse, so it's kind of hard just to target walleye. Like, about the only way to target walleye exclusively is bottom bouncers and crawler harnesses along the channel. But we're fishing adjacent to the channel or like deep into Canada, and we're catching the majority of them on little 2 3/4 inch walleye stinger spoons, yak spoons, and bandits typically.
Really?
Yeah, we sometimes our bandits will change out the back hook. We run a 30-pound leader on all of our stuff. So we run 15-pound main, 30-pound leader, and then we'll run jet divers off the boat. We run small little dipsies, and all those have 30-pound tests too.
Well, that sounds just like I'm running for walleye up on the bay, Saginaw Bay.
Yeah, it's the same setup. Honestly, I used to run a lot of lead core, jets, and spoons on Saginaw Bay years ago, and I just kind of transitioned some of that stuff over to here. I don't run too much lead core just because there's too much line out with the water depth, but the spoons and the jet divers work really good.
So does that jet actually help you in the weeds? Does it stop the weeds from getting down to the spoons?
It kind of does. We'll typically only run jets off the stern of the boat without a planer board. Sometimes we'll run them on an inside board, but the majority of our weeds where we're fishing are surface weeds. So we'll run a jet diver off the boat, and we will kind of like our muskie spread. We put the tip of the rod in the water. So the rod usually catches the majority of the floating weeds, and it doesn't go down to the bait. But the jet diver's easy in, out, easy in, easy out. We're only running 25 to 35 behind the boat.
Well, I would expect a muskie to come in and hit a bait that close to the boat and the prop wash because they're not afraid of anything. But you're getting walleye right off the corners of the boats too.
Oh yeah, walleye, bass, pike, muskie. The muskie will bite the jet diver. We've probably been bit off 3 times this year because they bite the jet diver, not the spoon. And we run 40-pound braid directly to our jet, and they still bite us off. At least lost 3 of them this year. So
wow. That sounds like fun. You mentioned you've been fishing Canada a lot, too. Isn't it nice to be able to get back over into that water?
It's a game changer. It's not that you can't catch fish on the U.S. side. It's just 70% of the lakes in Canada. The majority of our good river spots are in Canada, and it just helps us get away from people. It's a better experience for the customer. It's just overall, it's better.
So what are the logistics of getting over there? Can you take care of this all, licenses and everything, just on a phone when you start the trip? Or is there preparation ahead of time?
Well, there's going to be a little preparation just because you want to have your right documents in line. But the gist of it is you either need a passport, an enhanced Michigan driver's license, or a copy of your birth certificate. Those are the 3 acceptable travel documents. We're not touching shore. We don't have to call in. We're not touching another boat. We're not anchoring. So there's no calling into the customs, and then you got to have a Canadian license for every fisherman on the boat.
So do you have to fill out that Arrive Canada or Arrive Can, whatever that app is, or you don't mess with that?
You only got to do that if you got to declare anything, or if you're touching shore, a boat, or you're anchoring. So if you're just fishing, they consider it just passing through, and as long as we're not touching shore, we're good to go.
And you can get the Canadian license online.
Yep, it's the easiest way, honestly, I found is just to Google Canadian non-resident fishing license, follow the first Canadian prompt, and then you'll have to make a login if you never bought one before. If not, you just got to sign in, put your I think it's sports card number, and you can buy your license.
How nice to be able to do that again.
Oh, it's handy. It's definitely handy.
Eric, I got to take a break. It sounds like you're busy, but can you give me a few more minutes?
Oh, I got plenty of time.
All right. We're talking with Eric Long of Long Line Charters. He concentrates on Lake St. Clair, though he does do Detroit River trips and St. Clair River trips, if I remember right, but we'll talk with him more about that after the break. Also want to talk with him about making the transition from this summertime fishery into the fall. I got to believe that, the recreational traffic is going to start to drop here, in a few weeks out there on Lake St. Clair. Is that going to help? Certainly can't hurt. I wonder if he gets into sturgeon as well. We'll talk about that. His website, chartergreatlakes.com, chartergreatlakes.com. And then we'll wrap up this first hour of the show with Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. Their big outdoor weekend is coming up in only about a month now. If you are a vendor, if you are a business person in the outdoor industry, I think this is someplace you want to take a look at being. Is there still room? I mean, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people there. Can you still be a part of it? Tom will help us out with that. Hey, my name is Mike Avery. My website at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can always reach me via email. In fact, that is the best way to get in touch with me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. More coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Michigan-based Boning Archery. Boning has been a leader in the industry, the archery industry, since 1946. They continue to innovate, come up with new products, new designs, and I will bet that if you are a target archer or a bow hunter as you're getting ready for this upcoming season, you have Boning products on your setup somewhere. You might not even know it. Check out the website boning.com. That's BOHNING. Boning.com. Congrats to the folks at Boning for being out there for more than 3/4 of a century. How impressive is that? Also pretty impressive, the pictures I've been seeing online, posted the last couple of weeks by Eric Long of Longline Charters down on Lake St. Clair. His website, chartergreatlakes.com, chartergreatlakes.com. Eric, do you venture down into the Detroit River and up into the St. Clair River as well?
Yeah, for sure. We do typically in the fall. We'll sneak down there. I know we did like a little segment for Angler Digest down there in the fall, but the fishing's really good in Detroit. November, early December, really until ice. The mouth of the Detroit River at Lake St. Clair, and then we'll go up to Port Huron. I don't really do too many charters up there no more, but I'll go up there and handline at night up near the Black River and stuff like that and have fun. Just kind of get my fun fishing in that November, December time.
What about sturgeon? Do you ever run into sturgeon or target? Do you do sturgeon trips?
I don't. I've done it for fun a few times. It's about an hour drive from where I'm at. So, and I don't have a boat up that way. So it's not really something that I do per se. And then it makes it kind of hard to get up in the morning to fish when you're fishing all night in the boat.
and then you've got this other thing called the real job out there still too.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I got about another year there, but we'll see how it goes. Just kind of doing them both. My brother's definitely helping out. I got my buddy Paul, who's been running trips this year too. He's got a 24-foot bay, so he's helping out quite a bit. But so it's I'm to the point where I'm too busy to have two jobs, so it's nice having a little bit of help now.
There you go. Yeah, good for you. So, Eric, how long will this summertime fishery, this summertime pattern, continue before you start to make a transition into an early fall type fishing?
It's pretty much all the way until the water flips. So we're going to fish typically the same pattern all June, July, August, September, and then usually October, mid to late October, depending on how cold it is and how much wind we get. Those fish are going to start transitioning a little bit more shallow water, and then we're going to start mostly doing perch. The last 3 years, we've been only perch fishing in November because it's been so good. And then sometimes we'll cherry pick. I left the center console in for the first week, from Thanksgiving to the first week of December. The walleye trolling on Lake St. Clair is really good in the fall. It's really good in the spring. You can target them exclusively, go out there with crankbaits, and it's really productive. The only thing that you encounter is a lot of the boat launches shut down. So almost every one of your private boat launches will shut down in the fall. So it's going to be a little bit harder for some of the recreational guys to get out, but it's still really good. You got a couple of DNR launches you can get in. The downfall is Crocker closed this year. The DNR have been working on it. I doubt it'll be open, but you still have a few. You got Harley and a few others.
I'm a little surprised to hear you talk about the water flipping. I get it on a deeper body of water, but when you got 12 feet of water, that still flips. You still get that thermocline. You still get that whole deal.
Yeah, per se. When it's still going to flip a little bit, but when you start getting that surface temp below 50, the walleye fishing is pretty good. So you start getting below 50, the bottom of the water is typically going to be warmer than the top, and those fish are going to be suspended up, and they're a little bit easier to target. And the weeds are typically gone. So October is tough on Lake St. Clair. October, the first week of November, we got a lot of weeds in that lake. So when the weeds die, you have weed mats that are floating around as big as boats. And in between those, there's stringy weeds the whole time. So trolling is almost impossible.
Yeah, I bet you can't wait till those are gone.
Oh, yeah, I hate it. That's why we usually when the weeds start getting in really bad, which is about the third week of October, and that's when we transition over to perch now. The fish are there. but it's a matter of how hard you want to work for them. And the problem is on Lake St. Clair, the stained water and the floating weeds are usually in the same area. So the areas that you want to fish typically have floating weeds in them, and it makes it tough.
Probably a nice relief to get some of that recreational traffic gone on the weekends, too.
Yeah, I'll be honest, this year is the least amount of boats I've ever seen on the lake. And I'm sure it's due to gas prices and, the economy and stuff like that. But I know that I got a good buddy that owns a fuel dock down there at St. Clair Shores, and he's barely doing any business. It's nobody's leaving the boat. And it's nice for us because if we go offshore 6-7 miles, there's no boats. The only boats are fishermen. There's nobody venturing around. There's nobody driving around. Everybody just sits and parks near shore. So it's really actually been a good year.
Yeah, that's good, but kind of sad in the same statement.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Even we had to raise our prices up a little bit. On the water fuel prices getting ridiculous. I think the last was right around $7 a gallon. But it is what it is. You
got to do what you got to do.
Out there, still do it.
All right, Eric, listen, always a pleasure to check in. Sounds like you've got some great fishing coming up for the next several months. If you want to book a charter with a trip with Eric, go to the website, chartergreatlakes.com, chartergreatlakes.com. Eric, we'll talk again soon. Good fishing to you.
Yep, have a good one, sir.
All right, we'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap up this first hour with Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews, their website, woods-n-waternews.com, my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, the email, mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Carroll on WIDL 92.1 FM and WKYO 1360 AM. And you can hear us in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay walleye fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. You'll never see more Angler Quests in one spot than you do at Linwood Beach. Great facilities, great people, just a wonderful experience at Linwood Beach. I encourage you to check them out. The website, linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. While you are online, please head on over to woods-n-waternews.com, the website of Michigan's premier outdoor publication, and the folks behind the big outdoor weekend coming up in Imlay City, the first full weekend in September, which is about a month away. Tom Campbell, can you believe that? How fast this has come up?
Mike, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. The 9th, 10th, and 11th, it's just like weeks away. So, but we're excited. I think we're wrapping things up and getting things all put together, and I think we got a great event planned. And like I said, we're really excited about it, and it should be a great time for everybody. We've really, for those deer hunters out here, Saturday at the September 10th at the outdoor weekend could be a deer hunter's dream. We've got a lineup of seminars that we're so excited about. We got 4 of the best known guys in the state of Michigan for deer hunting. 3 of them will help you get that deer, and the 4th one will help you take care of it when it's done. So,
all right, well, let me guess. Okay, Johnny Eberhardt's got to be one of them.
Oh, we can't get John. John's always committed to Jays that weekend.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
He would be on our list for sure, but yes.
So give me your lineup then. Who are we talking about?
All right. Well, we've got Young. We've got the upcoming Adam Lewis, who's been writing for us now for a couple years with sound barrier hunting. Fantastic. I think he's got a teaching job on the side too, but he's really an up and coming, and he's got some unique ideas and techniques about gathering information before you actually hunt on your deer hunting, and he's a great asset. And then of course we got Tony LaPratt. Everybody knows Tony, and his great he's entertaining. He's got so much knowledge about big bucks and hunting big bucks and how to hunt big bucks. And then we're kind of bringing him out of retirement. He doesn't do shows as a vendor anymore, but Fred Abbas is going to come back with us on Saturday. And everybody knows Fred's tricks. I mean, what an incredible guy. Who else would come up with the idea of taking their grandchild's bubble maker and putting deer scent in it to help him hunt, or stealing his granddaughter's idea of silly string and created it into a fantastic deer scent. So Fred's going to be fantastic. And then we round that all up. We also going to have Steve Francis from Country Smokehouse, and he's going to help us take care of that deer once it's down on the ground, and he'll actually have a field dressing demonstration and gives you great tips on how to handle that meat and take care of that meat to get the best tasting venison.
You know,
honestly, recipes.
That's a great service, because beginning hunters are, you know, somebody who didn't have grandpa or dad show them how to take care of a deer, you don't know where to start.
So true, exactly right. You know, that's a perfect example, and plus, even though even a veteran guy that's been doing his own deer for years and years, there's always a tip that Steve has at the way they do things professionally, and it's so. And it's fun to watch somebody else, their method of doing it, because you may have been taught by grandpa or dad this way, and maybe this trick's a little easier for you. So it always helps, and it's just entertaining, and it should be a great Saturday for sure. And a lot of those guys will be back on Sunday, but Fred will be there only on Saturday, and Steve will only do his on Saturday too. So it should be fun.
Well, a last question for you before we let you go. I look at the show as a great way for primarily Michigan-based companies, outdoor-related companies, but you're open to anywhere. Exactly. But to get access to a bunch of outdoorsmen and women, is there still room as a vendor? If I wanted to come in and promote my small business, can I still get in?
It's the best thing. Absolutely, Mike. The changes they've made at the fairgrounds this year, and our changes in our layout have expanded. We moved our big exhibitor tent, so we've got a lot more space, and right now we do have some space. So I would encourage anybody that's looking to come to the outdoor weekend as a vendor, get to our website, give us a call at the office, and we'll get going on that information and see if we can help them out, because we want everybody there, and we're going to do everything we can. If we get a vendor calling in late and really wants to get in, we're going to do our best to rearrange things to get them in, because that's what we're all about. We want them in there. So, yeah, absolutely.
What's the website for the show?
It is. You can go to www.outdoorweekend.net, and that'll take you right to the outdoor weekend. And within a week, you'll see the seminar schedules on there and all the people that's going to be at the event, as far as our seminars and entertainment and educational stuff. So it'll be the hot tip to get to the outdoorweekend.net.
Thank you, Tom. Outdoorweekend.net, outdoorweekend.net, the website for Woods-n-Waternews, woods-n-waternews.com. As always, thank you to Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews for helping us wrap up this first hour of this week's show. When we come back in hour number 2, we're going to change gears, talk a little fishing with John Bergsma of Great Lakes Fisherman's Digest, and Chad Stewart of the DNR answering questions about this new mandatory deer registration we're going to be facing this fall. Lieutenant Jason Wicklund, how many fish and how much venison can you keep in your freezer and be legal? That's coming up in hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, heard on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Why do I say that? Why do I make that distinction? Because you might not be listening to the radio show itself, but I think the best way to listen to the content of this program, if you can, is on your local AM or FM radio station. Because your local radio station, for one thing, gets the content before the podcast version is uploaded. I make the distinction because there are a whole bunch of very good outdoor-related, Michigan-based podcasts that are out there. And I think podcasting is wonderful. It's a great way for anyone to tell a story or get information out there. You can do it for almost nothing. And it doesn't cost anything to get into podcasting. And if the content is good and you promote it, people will listen. So I love podcasting. But there aren't many statewide syndicated outdoor radio shows. So I like to make that distinction. If you can't hear the broadcast version of the radio show, the podcast is available anywhere. I mean, anywhere you get podcasts. MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I put it up on the website. I put it on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music. It's on Audible, Twitter, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play. I'm going to go through the whole list. iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Odyssey. And these are just ones that I know of. And even on YouTube. Yeah, I put the radio show on YouTube. I know it's crazy, but people watch/listen to it there. The podcast version of the show is it's available for download Sunday afternoons at 6. Now, I don't say dropped. Oh, the podcast dropped. Baloney. Podcasts don't drop. I upload them, and then you download them or you stream them. They don't drop. Anyway, I also do monthly podcasts for a few of the companies I work with, including Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Primal Tree Stands, and Polar Craft Boats. In fact, when we're done with the radio show today, I will be recording this week's Offshore Tackle podcast. Been having great fun with offshore products out on Saginaw Bay. That offshore OR-12, I've changed the configuration of the clips on that thing, and I've really been just wrapping up a great summertime season on Saginaw Bay. Speaking of fishing, have you seen the show Great Lakes Fisherman's Digest? The website, GreatLakesFisherman'sDigest.com. The guy behind it is a guy who's been around the fishing scene here in Michigan for many, many years. His name is John Bergsma, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. John, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Well, I'm on day 7 of being sick, but today, Mike, I feel a little bit better. I'm on my family vacation up here in the central UP in the little town of Curtis on Big Manistee Lake, and I don't know what happened, but about Wednesday, after filming a really fun walleye and pike and perch show with my grandkids, the next day, I fell ill with the common flu. I had checked for COVID and everything else, but lo and behold, the common flu is still out there. I got it, and just today I'm starting to be able to eat and feel better. But you know what? I'd rather lay in a cabin looking at a lake than sit in my house.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. Good for you on getting a little family getaway, even though you've been under the weather. John, tell us about you. I mean, people know who you are, but walk me through this process of how you got to where you are today.
Jeez, oh, Pete. I mean, it's a case of just kind of what you've talked about in the past several times. People don't stumble into stuff. You have to take that first forward step, no matter what you're doing. And way back in 1990, I was a bass fisherman primarily, and I saw the commercials for the Infish Professional Walleye Trail, signed up, fished 19 years, won plenty of money, did really well at that, moved on to building the resort that I'm staying at right now at Pine Bluff up in the Curtis area on Big Manistee Lake. Did that for maybe 3 or 4 years, condoed it off, sold it all. And then I was bored out of my mind, as you might imagine, Mike. So I thought, you know what, I think I really love fishing more than anything else. So I took $100,000, made a show, filmed all year with no sponsors. And one of your good friends, Mark Romanak, was my film guy. He was kind enough to film the whole 13-week series for me and made a nice show. And bought the airtime, put it on the air, and then proceeded to go sell sponsorship. And that's one of the things people fail to realize. Points in my life, Mike, you have to take the step. You can't go out and say, oh, give me a bunch of money and I'll make a television show. It doesn't work that way, as you well know in radio. I mean, you have to have a product to sell. And sometimes that means you have to take the first step.
Well, very true. And in fact, I remember that from my television days as well. People say, well, you know, how much does the Outdoor Channel or how much does the Sportsman Channel pay you to run your show? doesn't work that way, does it?
No, it does not. You pay them to be on their network and distribute your product. And hopefully if you're a good salesman and the product you have is good, good people will step behind you. Of course, Bruce DeShano, the folks at Offshore have sponsored me since year number 2 of my professional career. Bruce and Nick DeShano are absolutely fantastic people, and they redefine the word loyalty.
Well, I can't agree with you more on that one. And isn't it interesting that once you've been around, say, this outdoor industry for a while, that concept of loyalty really starts to play a bigger role, because this is not a big business that we're in. This is a business made up primarily of smaller, a lot of them family-owned, family-based companies.
Absolutely. 3 of my biggest sponsors are out of the Minnesota region, Flow Fast and Dorado Boat Latches, which helps you secure your boat on the front, and Wave Pro Seat Bases, which helps keep you from losing your back too early in life. And all of those 3 companies are husband and wife owned family businesses that just kept growing and took a chance, bought space on my show, saw their sales appreciate dramatically, and now they're loyal. But it's definitely a show me what you can do situation, and you've got to be able to put their product out there and all the while, Mike, not lose sight of the fact that the viewer wants to be educated and entertained, those 2 things, and informed. So when I do shows, I make it a point to teach people not just that I'm on a lake catching fish, but how am I doing it, what time of the year, all the critical factors, and hope that they go out and have success as well.
So is that the niche, John, of your show, Great Lakes Fisherman's Digest, education?
I think so. I think we stay in Michigan primarily. Sure, we venture up to Ontario for a fun getaway because you know what, Mike? Guys go up to Ontario for fun getaways, so they want to know where to go. When it's time for them to go, they want to know, John's been up there. He's had great success. I watched the shows, and he's catching fish like crazy, so, let's go there. And but for me, it's just about exposing Michigan waters and patterns that work to people so that it expands their options past, 20 miles from their back door.
So if you're doing an educational show, I mean, you've got to catch fish to have a good show.
Oh, absolutely. There is no question that one of the reasons that I've been successful, and I will say this flat out, other than the fact that God is very nice to me, is the fact that I was a tournament fisherman, and I know how to catch fish. And so very rarely do we go out and not catch the 12 or 14 keeper-sized fish of whatever target species we're looking for in a filming day. I'd say once every 10 or 15 times I go out there and swing as hard as I can, and then, a slider goes under my bat, and I go back home with nothing.
Well, I mean, if you spend enough, I appreciate hearing that, because as a weekend warrior, there are times when I struggle to catch fish. So it makes me feel better in some ways to know that a guy of your caliber also occasionally struggles at least once in a while.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, we do it, and I look at my cameraman, Brett or Jesse, and I just say, guess what? We got other things to do tomorrow. The weather's not right. One thing I would say is just in the past 2 years, and I almost hate to admit this, Mike, because it's been around forever, and I didn't pay much attention to it, but the moon phase solenoid tables in conjunction with the weather have shown me to be a great help in ensuring that I catch fish. Those there's a crazy app. I don't even know the name of it. I'm not here to promote it. But I've got a fishing tables app on my phone, just like I have a wind app, like I'm sure you do as a Saginaw Bay veteran. And I refer to that thing, and I actually will choose days based on what days look the strongest on the Solander tables.
John, hold on. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show, but I do want to follow up on that. I don't follow the moon phase probably as closely as I should for fishing, but I sure take a look at it for hunting. I hate hunting on a full moon. Is that the case for fishing as well? We'll find out after the break with John Bergsma of Great Lakes Fisherman's Digest TV, the website greatlakesfishermansdigest.com, coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on Big Country Gold in Sheboygan, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM. And you can hear us in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. I'll be heading through the Sioux next weekend on my way to Ontario for a bear hunt. I will not be using my Brenton AR-15 style hunting rifle on that trip. I'll be using my dart and crossbow. But by the way, this segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, AR-style, highly accurate, tough, and dependable hunting rifles that could change the way you hunt. You know, the AR-style platform is getting lots of negative attention lately, including by some clowns, my word, not Brenton's word, some clowns in Washington. I find it very disturbing because when you look at an AR-style rifle, it's a tool just like everything else. But Brenton makes very high-quality, dependable, extremely accurate AR-style hunting rifles. In fact, I'm going to use my 350 Legend for my Michigan bear hunt, the third season, the end of September, hunting with Johnny Bowler up near Seney. I'm really looking forward to that. Anyway, Brentons are made in Lansing, just down the road from the governor's office. I think that's kind of funny. You can check out their website at BrentonUSA.com. That's BrentonUSA.com. If you want to save $100 on a Brenton rifle, by the way, use the promo code Avery, and you can save $100 on your Brenton AR-style hunting rifle. BrentonUSA.com. While you're online, head on over to GreatLakesFishermansDigest.com. That's the website for John Bergsma's TV show. John been around the Michigan fishing industry for a long, long time. But, John, you really got my attention before the break when you started talking about the moon phase. Now, is it as simple as something like you don't want to fish on a full moon or vice versa? Or is it something much more sophisticated than that?
Well, I do think it is mostly a barometric pressure-driven situation for fishing. I like you, will look at a Solander table to decide on hunting and activity levels. But for me, it's a barometric pressure. Here's a scientific little blurb, and it will make sense to people when they hear it. When you have a rising barometric pressure, not maybe the first couple of clicks, but once it gets into that rising mode, that's increasing pressure on a fish's bladder. That actually causes the fish to become uncomfortable in his bladder, like a cramp, if you will, in your abdomen. And so the fish's solution to that is to go to deeper water where the sheer pressure of the water overrides the moon's or the barometer's effects on his bladder, and the pain or the discomfort in his bladder is gone. That's exactly why you see during high pressure situations fish just literally laying on the bottom, not willing to move, not willing to do anything, because they're just not in the mood, if you will. And then as that pressure begins to drop, they sense that. They move to shallow water because, of course, they've been out there and they're hungry now. They move to shallow water. There's no discomfort. They feed very actively. And then when that's really the long and the short of it. It's a really a barometric pressure situation. And there's phases during the day having to do with the moon itself that mean, it'll be a better fishing at, this 2-hour window or that 2-hour window. Now, you and I both might know, Mike, can you catch fish randomly throughout the off cycles? Of course you can, especially in great bite situations like Saginaw, Erie, other places. But you and I both know also, you've been fishing along, you don't catch anything for a half an hour, then you catch fish like crazy for 2 hours, then it seems to quote unquote shut off.
Yeah.
If I got my cylinder table out, I can absolutely tell you when that happens, you look at the cylinder table and it will match perfectly with the high bite, low bite scenarios.
I'm going to have to start experimenting with that and playing around more with that. That's I appreciate that, John.
Yeah. I went out as an example filming my show. The high bite was from 5:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. I put my lines in the water at 5:35. I caught 6 beautiful walleye by 7 a.m. I never caught another walleye for the rest of the day. Now, I caught northern pike and perch and bass and everything else. But finicky fish are very, very sensitive to that cylinder table bite windows.
I'm going to look into that more. Hey, I got a question for you. Do you miss fishing tournaments at all?
No, because there's a combination. To be a good tournament fisherman, there's a combination of things you have to have. One is you got to be kind of crazy and aggressive to begin with. Secondly, I think you have to be young enough to really, really, there's older guys now that have worked their whole careers, retired, and always dreamed about being a tournament fisherman, guys like Wayne Van Dyke from Michigan and stuff, and doing great at 68 years old. But I did it for 19 years, and I had 4 kids, and I traveled all over tarnation, from Montana to Dunkirk, New York to Arkansas and Center Hill Reservoir in Tennessee. I went everywhere on the national circuit. And so I was just tired, Mike, to be honest with you. And once I found a different focus, that focus of showing regular people on a Saturday or Sunday morning television show how they can catch more fish like I catch fish is now my driving passion. So I've replaced tournament fishing with that passion, and because of that replacement, I don't miss it at all.
Where do we see the show, by the way, John?
Whoa, boy, you can see it lots of different places year-round. We're the only 52-week-a-year, no-rerun show on, other than John Gillespie, in the entire Midwest. So we are on in the Grand Rapids area on WOTV ABC4, basically Southwest Michigan. And that's Saturday mornings at 7:30. And then in the Detroit area, we're on Detroit 20 at 6 a.m. Sunday morning. You have to set your DVR for that. I don't blame you a bit if you're not up early. Then in Lansing Battle Creek, we're on ABC 53 at Saturday mornings at 7:30. And Fox 32, Northern Michigan, and Marquette 6, Fox 6 up in Marquette for the UP. And then in September, we'll be adding the greater Alpena region with the Fox 11 WBKB people, but that's not till September. We're also going to begin airing on CW 46 in the greater Saginaw Bay area, and that's, again, going to be in September. And so you basically, in September, you'll be able to go there. Every inch of Michigan is covered with a time slot where you can wake up either Saturday or Sunday. And I just suggest people just set their DVR to tape the show. It never comes off the air. And that way, if your schedule or what you're doing doesn't allow you to watch it, you can sit down and watch it with a cup of coffee whenever you want.
Well, probably online too, right? I mean, that's a great option these days.
Oh yeah. My Facebook page, Fisherman's Digest, Facebook/Great Lakes Fisherman's Digest. We post every episode every Monday morning at 9 a.m. And so we have thousands and thousands of people who view it on our Facebook page, also on YouTube each week. Plus, if you follow us on Facebook, Mike, we, as you know, provide fishing reports for all over the state. Like if you went on my Facebook page right now You'd have an in-depth report for Port Clinton, Ohio. I mean, locations, leads, perch, a great perch report that's going on right now down there. Every day of the week, we have a new fishing report, Tuesday through Friday.
Yeah, I also see you fishing out of an angler quest. Did you ever think that in your days as a tournament fisherman, you'd be fishing big water in a pontoon?
You know, back in the day, Bob Profts always used to threaten to use a pontoon out on the Oahe Reservoir system, and that said he could beat us all with it. Bob Profts was a pretty talented guy. I believe if we put him in an angler quest, we'd have been all in trouble, because that is a fishing machine right there. I mean, here's the biggest thing to everybody listening. It is not a pontoon boat that's been converted to a fishing platform by changing a few seat configurations and throwing a few rod holders on. That's what the competition does and calls it a fishing pontoon. Brad and Mark Dupuy and the folks at Angler Quest completely started at zero, redesigned the entire concept of the boat structurally, with all of the rigors and requirements that, you know, as you know, Brad fished Saginaw Bay intensively for years and years and years. He knew what Great Lakes was going to throw at his new design product, and he made that thing, binary walls, all the reinforcements. He made that thing to stand up for decades of regular, normal use on the Great Lakes water. And once you've been on that platform, I have the Pro Troll Deluxe. Once you've been on that platform, I mean, you will literally ask yourself why you need a deep V boat.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy.
It has completely changed the way I look at trolling, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I don't just troll out of it. I've got the Garmin Force trolling motor, which is a super high-velocity trolling motor, and I spot lock and jig for Lakers. I spot lock and perch fish over the side. I move down the shoreline on obviously relatively calm days, less than 10 miles an hour, and I can cast for bass. I literally have filmed shows in almost every normal V-bottom circumstance that you can think of with great success with a 24-foot pontoon boat.
Wow. Last question for you before we let you go. If you were going to head out somewhere in Michigan fishing this weekend, where's the hot bite?
I'm going to give you a few choices. Obviously, in my opinion, Saginaw Bay has been the best bite that I can honestly say I have day in and day out that I have ever seen in my lifetime on Saginaw Bay. There's a lot of different areas of the bay you could go. There's no right or wrong spot. There's guys ripping 2.8 miles an hour with shad style baits in 8 foot of water. And there's guys out trolling deep off of our gray in 30 and 35 foot of water. Everybody is catching fish. If I was going to fish somewhere, I'd probably fish the slot or the hogback or the middle grounds in Saginaw Bay and 10 to 14 feet of water pulling harnesses.
All right. Listen, that's going to have to be the tip. That right there. Saginaw Bay, everywhere you want to go is hot right now. Thank you, John Bergsma of Great Lakes Fisherman's Digest. The website, greatlakesfishermansdigest.com. greatlakesfishermansdigest.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Chad Stewart from the DNR checks in, answering some questions about mandatory deer registration this fall right here in the great state of Michigan. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Port Huron at WPHM 1380 AM. And let's go north of the bridge to Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the website, mucc.org, mucc.org. And a reminder, if you want to save 25% on becoming an MUCC member for the first time, use the promo code Mike, all caps, and you can save 25%. mucc.org. As you probably know, this fall, Michigan deer hunters will be working under a mandatory deer registration. Now, I got to be honest, this is something I think is a great idea. You know, people have been complaining, well, we don't really know how many deer are being taken. Well, so the DNR said, you want to know how many deer are being taken? We'll do a mandatory registration like so many other states do. But now there are a lot of complaints and gripes and people saying, well, what if? Well, I don't know the answers to that, but you know who does? Chad Stewart. He's the big game specialist for the DNR, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Chad, welcome back. How are you?
Pretty good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Listen, always a pleasure. So let's answer some of these questions. Well, what if I don't have Well, let me back up. Very briefly, how does the mandatory registration system work?
Yeah, good question. It's a good place to start. So we piloted the online program last year. Essentially how it works is after the hunter harvests their deer, they go to what we call a landing page or just a website. They enter in their tag number and their date of birth, and that will link them up to, you know, the system will identify exactly who you are. You go through, and it takes about 5 minutes maybe to report your harvest, and it's just fairly basic questions like what did you harvest, what day did you harvest your deer, what did you harvest your deer with, you know, stuff like that. They ask you to sort of move a pinpoint around to drop a location where you harvested it, so we get an understanding of where the harvest occurs within your specific county or DMU. Might be a couple other questions, you know, related to antler points, et cetera, and then you're done. It doesn't take long. You get a confirmation number, and that confirmation number serves as, you know, your proof of reporting your deer, and you can use that information to transfer your deer to a processor, taxidermist, you know, take it home and, you know, consider yourself a legal harvest, you know, at that point.
Okay, so you've got to go online to do this. So here are the questions. What if I don't have cell service, or what if I don't have access to my Wi-Fi? How do I do this?
Yeah, we get that question a lot, and you know we're like the last state, I think, in the Midwest to sort of move forward with this harvest reporting program. Every other state in the Midwest has really identified some way to do this, and certainly individuals in those states have those same sort of challenges as well. What we've done to sort of account for some of those obstacles or barriers that people might have is that we've given them a 72-hour window to report their harvest. So it's not something that needs to be done, you know, that day or even the next day. And you can have someone assist you to do it. So if you're at camp, if you have a family member back home, you can call them up and say, listen, I shot my deer. It's a doe, it's an 8-point, whatever. And this is essentially where I shot it, sort of in the northwest part of name your county. And they can sort of fill it out for you. So other people can report the harvest for you with your assistance. The other thing that can be done is we are working really closely with a lot of different vendors, and we hope to have a list out very soon that are going to be offering some sort of harvest reporting assistance on, you know, select days, especially those busy days. And then you can always bring your information into a DNR customer service center. Again, the 72 hours is to get you through that weekend timeline, especially if you shoot a deer on a Friday evening or something. Come into a DNR office during the business hours, and we can help you submit your report for you.
Well, if I'm at camp in the UP and I don't have a cell signal, I can't call my family to register anyway. Or if I had a cell signal, I'd just do it myself.
Yeah, that's true. There definitely are spots in the UP where there's absolutely no cell signal whatsoever. In that case, you know, we anticipate that the number of individuals who are going to be without cell service for 3 days is probably very, very small. So, you know, there's certainly an opportunity to go outside of your camp, at least someone outside your camp. You know, a lot of people are going out and getting groceries or any, you know, filling up for gas or anything anyway. There's an opportunity to sort of coincide that with your reporting, and one person can do that for your entire camp harvest as well.
You know, real quick, I think, well, we know some people just don't like the DNR. People don't like Big Brother. They see this as a way of, boy, the DNR reaching into my world once again. But they say if I thought this information was really going to be used to manage the deer herd, I would accept it. In about 30 seconds, how do you answer that?
Well, this is a chance for hunters to provide the data that we use to make our recommendations. Before this, we always use everything off of a survey, our voluntary surveys and our mail-in surveys. Not everybody has a chance to participate in this. This is an opportunity for hunters to put that information out, and it's going to give us a lot faster information and a lot more information than we've ever had. So we're going to be able to do a lot more detailed analyses than we've ever had been able to do before.
Thank you, Chad Stewart of the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. There will be a lot more questions about this. Just keep this in mind, too, folks. There's not going to be any tickets written this first year. This first year is an informational. It's a break-in period, so you've got a grace period here. More coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan. And the Ask Avery segment wraps up each week's second hour. That's what we're doing right now. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the programming, the content of the show. The best way to get these questions to me is via email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's what Keith Seltz did. He said, I have a question about just how long a person can keep any type of wild game in the freezer and just how much is allowed. He said, are you aware of someone in Gladwin County charged with something in the neighborhood of having 1,000 fish in their freezer? He says, I have a relative in Ohio that goes fishing every day and catches fish every day, and I asked him about a limit. He says he never heard of such a thing. So this is Keith's question. For him, it's mainly about venison. Just how long is a person allowed to keep venison before it's considered illegal? Well, I will take that a next step. How much and how long for fish and wild game? To answer that question, Lieutenant Jason Wicklund of the DNR comes along to help us out as he does so often. Lieutenant, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me back.
Always a pleasure. I bet this is a question your people get asked a lot. What is the answer?
Well, the venison one I get usually in the fall when deer season starts up. That one comes up quite frequently because in the 50s there was a law that said that you were only allowed to possess venison 60 days after the last deer season, and if you wanted to possess it longer than that, you had to get a permit, which was free from the DNR. Well, as you can probably assume, not a lot of people went and got those free permits, nor did the DNR go door to door to see if everybody was past their 60-day limit on venison storage. So that law went by the wayside and was repealed in 1996. So the way the law works now is once you have legally taken that deer and processed it, either your own or commercially, there is no limit to how much venison you can have or how long you can have that venison in there. So, so people still hang on to the old ways, or they remember back in the day like I did. I remember driving to the DNR office to get my free permit so I could keep my venison after 60 days from the season. But that's not an issue anymore, and it's legally taken and processed. There's no requirements for them to store that or how much they can have in there. Now, I know some states limit you to 25 pounds. Michigan doesn't have that. So
what about fish?
Fish is people say all the time, well, you go out fishing every day and you throw fish in your freezer and you've got more than your daily possession limit or 3-day possession limit. And once again, that the intent of the law with the 3-day possession limit was for rural camping and transporting fish, thinking about the people that go out on remote fishing trips. It's not for the person that, is in their freezer storing some fish that they caught through the years. And we're not in the habit of investigating that stuff unless, like that Gladwin case, they received a tip that this gentleman that was caught was going out multiple times a day with catching multiple limits, and then that put the COs on the lake watching that guy, which led to a investigation, which ended up back at the house where he voluntarily opened the freezers up, and lo and behold, there was 1,400 panfish.
1,400.
So, and he ended up paying $8,685.
Wow.
For the one charge, and $15,460 for the second charge. For the first one was for the daily over limit, and the other one was for the 3-day possession over limit. So that's that happens more often than people realize. These people that double trip, or these people that are up here to take advantage of the resource. And I know one of the questions is, what do they use for bait? And the ones that I've seen where they're grossly over, they're using crickets. Believe it or not, they come up with buckets full of crickets, and those are deadly for bluegills on the beds.
All right, so just to recap, there is no longer any law about keeping venison or wild game, the amount or the time in your freezer, correct?
Correct.
And fish, you say your folks aren't going to routinely come and look, but is there technically a law on the books about that?
Well, the fish have to be like legally possessed. So if you have a fishing license and you catch fish and you're possession of them, which you're transporting to and from your residence, then yeah, there's no excuse. You have to you're restricted to your days limit or 2 additional days, as long as it's smoked, cured, dried, etc. So, but as far as what you have in your freezer, we don't, like I said, we don't have enforcement strategy or directive to go through and look in people's freezers, unless we can articulate a reason that there may be some type of illegally taken game or fish in that freezer, or there's some commercialization of that freezer, but that would involve search warrants and interviews and all sorts of that stuff. So everybody that's out there right now doesn't need to run to their freezer and try to count fillets. That we're not in the habit of investigating those type of things.
Perfect. Lieutenant, you've cleared up a lot. I appreciate that. Lieutenant Jason Wicklund of the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, the website for the DNR. And again, a big thank you to our friends at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. And thank you to Keith Seltz for asking this question. I think it's an excellent question. If you have something else you would like to pose for the Ask Avery segment, send it to me. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, we're getting ready for bow season with Kevin Pritchard of Jay's Sporting Goods right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. As I talk with you the first weekend in August. Wow. How did that happen? The summertime is just flying by. Time is just, it's like a freight train. It just keeps going faster and faster. I mean, there's still a lot of great summer weather ahead of us, a lot of great summertime activities. And as I have been saying all week during this show, man, don't let the summertime slip away. Don't wish the summer away, and don't let it slip away. There's still time to get these things done, to take these fishing trips, these camping trips, these drives north with the family, the kids, the grandkids. Make these memories. I mean, gas prices are high. I get it. But can you put a price on a memory? When it gets to be February And you think, man, we should have done that last summer. Or we're still years down the road. The kids are grown up. The grandkids are grown up. It's like, we didn't do the things that we could have when they were younger. I get it. Gas prices are high. You are busy. You are working. You got a lot going on. I get it. I've been there. I am there. So I encourage you not to let things slip away, to take advantage of these opportunities that are out there while they are here in front of us. Now, having said that, I get the fact that for a lot of people, hunting season is coming up right around the corner. In fact, for me, I will actually be starting my hunting season a week from now because I'm going north to Canada to hunt bears. Now, I will have on this trip my dart and crossbow with me. On previous trips, I have taken bears with compounds. I've taken a bear with a recurve, and now I'm back to a crossbow. So I embrace all types of archery. I think archery is a wonderful way to hunt. But the thing about archery is you can't wait. Even with a crossbow, you can't wait till the last minute to get ready. There's got to be some prep. There's got to be some preparation on your gear, on your shooting style, and on your body, getting in shape to hunt. Kevin Pritchard is the manager of the archery department at Jay's Sporting Goods, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to help us get ready for that upcoming bow season. Kevin, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Mike. Thank you.
So listen, is it busy yet? Are you seeing the crowds come in yet? Are people starting to think this direction, or are we right on the cusp of that?
Oh, yes, they're coming in now. Weekends especially, when it's super busy. So we're staying on top of it.
What do people come in now? Why do they come into the store?
I wish they'd come in sooner. It never happens that way. I'm kind of one of those guys, too, where I wait till the last minute.
Sure.
But they're getting their arrows. They're getting their bows tuned. I mean, they're starting.
Are we seeing these days, with the prices on these new bows being so high, are people coming in looking for new bows, or are they making the bow that they've got last for another year or so?
Yeah, I mean, we're still selling. Matthews has always been a good seller, but Hoyt is right there with them, too. They're running back-to-back. Those are two best sellers. But, yeah, they're still coming in buying new bows, and we still have, half the people are fixing up their old bows because they will still shoot deer.
Let's talk about new bows for a second. You mentioned Matthews. You mentioned Hoyt. What should we look for in a new bow? And maybe a better question is, what's hot these days in new bows?
Yeah, I think the new thing now is vibration. They've gotten a lot smoother than they used to be. You shoot the bow, wow, did that bow go off or not? It's really smooth. So when a customer does shoot a new bow, he's wild over it.
So, for a lot of years, speed, the faster the better, the faster the better. Can we get a fast bow that does not have hand shock, that doesn't have vibration?
Yes. They're averaging 330, 340 now, and they are super smooth.
330, 340, that's a crossbow speed.
Yeah, but this is an IBO speed. So some guys doesn't realize that. That's a 70 pounds, 30-inch draw, 350 grain arrow. We're all shooting heavier arrow than that.
Yeah.
So your actual speeds will slow down. Draw lengths are shorter than the 30-inch, so it can slow down a little bit.
So let me ask you this, Kevin. With the efficiency of today's bows and as fast as you can shoot at 55 pounds, is there a reason to hunt with 70 pounds anymore?
I don't believe so. I shoot 60 pounds. I'm a 28-inch draw, and I shot a nice 320-pound bear last year, and I stuck the arrow through, stuck it in the ground. I mean, I couldn't ask for any more.
Yeah. Well, and I think especially as archers as a group get older and hopefully smarter, we realize that there is no reason to shoot these high poundage bows because of the efficiency of today's gear.
Correct.
What are we going to pay for a new bow these days?
Well, you're looking at $1,200, and that's nothing on it for a top end bow. Now, it's not saying you have to spend that much. There's shooting bows and a shoot just about as good for $800 on a package bow.
Package. Now let's talk about that, because I think in the past these packages may have been kind of hodgepodge. It sounds to me like you're telling me they're putting some thought into putting these packages together now.
Yeah, I think Hoyt has, well, as far as what we carry here at Jay's, the Hoyt Torex package has a fall away rest on it, so it's not low quality stuff. It comes with pretty good quality stuff on it.
What's the price on that?
That bow is right around $800.
All set up, ready to go? I mean, the whole package?
Yeah, you still have to buy your release and some arrows, but as far as, what bolts to the bow, it's got everything you need on the bow.
You talk about a drop away, and I get it. In theory, the less that the rest touches the arrow, yada, yada. But, man, I know a lot of guys who are very, very good bow hunters, or they still use the old whisker biscuit.
Yeah, my boy, he's 21 years old now, and he still loves his whisker biscuit. I set him up with the correct arrow. So on a whisker biscuit, you have to pay attention to what arrow you get, because you can hear it on the draw. Where your fall away rest, you can pretty much use any arrow. The biscuit, the bristles are a little stiff. I've had guys wax up their arrows, try to make them smooth. If you get a high gloss carbon arrow, and they're quiet on the draw.
I hadn't even thought about that.
They shoot great.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. Is anybody shooting aluminum shafts anymore?
Well, maybe one guy out of 100 comes in asking, "Do you carry a double X75?" I'm like, not anymore. The price of aluminum is expensive. You can get a carbon arrow cheaper now than you can aluminum.
Wow.
And they're more durable, and they're always straight.
Always straight, right? Always straight. They're either straight or they're busted, one or the other.
Correct. You got it.
What about broadheads? There's so many choices out there, Kevin.
That there is. I'm a G5 fan, and I'm a fixed blade guy because I shoot lower poundage, so I like to stick with the fixed blades. I can get the best penetration possible. But there's many brands that are out there that are really good broadheads. You just have to pick what you need to shoot with your draw, your poundage, and what bow it is, whether it's a crossbow. Then you have to get into a crossbow-specific broadhead for the higher speeds. Then the mechanical comes into more to play, so it shoots truer to a field tip.
Well, the knock on the fixed blades has been that it's hard to get them to fly right. Is there more involved in tuning your setup? Can you get a fixed blade to fly like a field point?
Yes, I can. It takes some practice, but it comes down to micro-tuning your bow rest on a compound bow. I get lucky. Every other year I'll get lucky. I'll go home, shoot my field tips, dead on, shoot my broadhead, dead on. The next year, I may be 4 or 5 inches off with the broadhead. If I'm shooting left, I'm going to micro-tune the rest the other direction until I get both of them hitting the same spot. And same thing if it's up or down, I'm going to, adjust the rest up or down. And I'm talking micro, just thousandths of an inch, because your broadhead will magnify, your shot impact versus your field tip.
And you bring up a great point. Your broadheads are probably not going to fly like your field points. So at what point in this season, in the preparation season, do we switch over and actually start shooting broadheads?
The sooner the better. I'm one of those guys where I'm running late. I'm always working on everybody else's bow here at work.
You're like the plumber whose pipes are clogged.
Yep. But yeah, I have to do it. I've been meaning to do it, and I need to take that bow home today and get it home. Like I say, I've got my brand new Hoyt ready, and I'll accept the broadhead part.
Kevin, hang tight. We've got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Kevin Pritchard, who is the manager of the archery department at Jay's Sporting Goods in their Clair store. You can stop by and see Kevin. He might be busy, but wave at him, say, "Hey, Kevin, I heard you on Avery's show," and he'll give you a big smile, maybe help you out if he's got time as well. But like Kevin says, don't wait any longer. I mean, it's time to get this gear in shape. It's time to get your shooting in shape, and Kevin has great advice about that after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Holland on WHTC. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us in Taos on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. In fact, you can hear us twice each weekend in Taos. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. VersaSkins, just change your skin for the season you're in. Michigan-based, family-owned VersaSkins. Paul Perrone, the owner, has come up with a great concept. Why spend all this gear for different hunting outfits, different sets of hunting clothes, when you can just snap on and zip on an outer layer, an outer shell, and change the camo pattern from snow camo to blaze orange or whatever. Check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. Also, they will be at the big Woods and Water Outdoor Weekend coming up the first full weekend in September after Labor Day. And you can see them in person there. Again, versaskins.com. While you are online, I would encourage you to head to jaysportinggoods.com. jaysportinggoods.com, the website, again, of Michigan-based, family-owned Jay's Sporting Goods. I have had the pleasure, I have been blessed to work with the Poet family and everybody at Jay's Sporting Goods. I don't know, 35, 40 years now? I mean, when I jumped out on my own and left the television station I was working for to start my own thing, it was Jay's Sporting Goods who stepped up, the late Kathy Poet, and said, we will work with you and we will support your efforts. So I have much loyalty to the folks at Jay's Sporting Goods. Kevin Pritchard is the manager of the archery department at Jay's in Clair, and he says it's getting busy. So, Kevin, when people walk in the door, say, to buy a new bow, do they know what they're looking for? Do they come in and say, I want this? Or do they come in and say, I'm looking for a bow that will do this? What do you suggest?
It goes both ways, Mike. Some guys come in, they know exactly what they want. They've done their research, and other guys have no clue. And then at that point, we'll show them a few bows and let them shoot them and let them take it from there. I mean, you got to shoot what you like and what feels good in your hand.
And that, I think that's another great point you make is, it's an individual. Shooting a bow is a very intimate, individual experience. What works for your buddy may not be the right bow for you.
Right.
And the only way to find out is to shoot them. Really?
Correct. Yeah, different weights, different grips, different draw cycles, different let-off. Like you said, it's individual. It gets personal.
Now, and listen, I love crossbows. I shoot a crossbow, but it's not the same experience as shooting a compound, or certainly not a recurve. Do people come in, and when they shoot a crossbow, do they feel a difference there, or is one crossbow like any other crossbow?
There is a difference. They're all, I will say they're all loud. There's some that do feel better, some that have a better trigger than others. The big thing is speed. The crossbow guys seem to want more speed. And you can definitely get it, but you're going to pay a little more for more speed.
When you get into those higher speeds, are you starting to deal with something that, because this thing is so tight and there's so much energy stored in here, are you starting to worry about something that maybe 2-3 years down the road just isn't going to hold up?
Yes, that's always a possibility. It's just like an old compound bow. The higher poundage it was, the more issues you may have down the road. So if you can, shoot a heavier arrow, shoot the heaviest one they offer, and that way it will quiet the bow down too.
I'll tell you what I like is and my son James got one of these. I love these bows that are self-cocking and decocking. The crossbow, self-cocking and decocking. That's wonderful.
Yes, that's the new thing. And I believe 10-point has one of the safest decock features now. Not to brag about them, but it is a safe bow to unload on a decock feature. Raven, you can always decock them too. You got to be careful, know what you're doing. But 10-point, if you slip with a handle as you're backing it out when you're done hunting, the handle stops right there. So there's more and more companies starting to do that, looking into that. Raven's got a couple now that you can do that on their R500, which is 500 feet a second. So those guys want that extra speed.
Well, and it was a 10-point that James bought, and I got to be honest, that's a beautiful bow. I think that's very, very nice. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Does anybody come in anymore looking for a recurve or a longbow?
Yes. I think this year our sales were up early in the year. I don't know if it's due to the traditional shoots, like the big shoot in Kalamazoo, the swap meet deal they have there. That brought a lot of customers in. It seems more and more people are getting back into traditional archery.
And that's pretty cool.
Yes.
And again, this is going to be more for the compound guys because that's where the bulk of the market is, the bulk of the shooters, I think. You're a compound shooter. The season's coming up on us unless you're going to Ontario like I am. What should we be doing now? How should we be practicing?
I practice long shots, Mike. That makes it a lot easier when you come down to that 20-yard shot. It makes it like a piece of cake. So I do like to practice long distance, even though I'm not going to shoot an animal that far. It makes you steadier. Like you say, when you go back to a 20-yard shot, it's a piece of cake.
So what's long distance?
I'm talking 60 yards, 80 yards.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't shoot a deer that far or an animal that far. Maybe a rabbit, but not a deer.
No, I know what you mean, though, because I've done this, too. When you're out at 60, 70, 80 yards, and then you get something at 20 yards, it's like a chip shot.
Yes, it is.
That
being said,
yeah, go ahead.
Your long shots like that, so if you have one of these new sights where it has a second and third axis, you want to make sure that is set and leveled up. So if your angles, if you're shooting on the side of a hill, you can't tell where your bow is level. So you want that bubble to be level, so there's a second and third axis to be set on them sights.
I'm trying to picture this, Kevin. I don't have a good feel for this. I mean, I can see a bubble on top, right, to know that you're horizontally level, right?
Mm-hmm. And now if you're pointing up or if you're pointing down, there's that second and third axis where you're going to set that level. So no matter what kind of ground you're on, that sight is going to be level. You can't just set it on a perfect level surface. So you have to do the up and down leveling also.
That's getting pretty sophisticated.
That's for the long shooters.
The guys out, especially the guys out west, right? If you're going to be going out west, you're going to be making some long shots.
Yes.
What about, the folks out of Wisconsin, the variable, help me out, Kevin, the adjustable sight? HHA.
HHA, yep, and Spot Hog's another popular one.
What's the advantage or disadvantage of going to a system like that?
It seems to be nice for out west. However, we have a lot of Michigan shooters or shooting fields. They're going to use that system too. It's really great for 3D shooting, where you have one pin, you loosen the knob, you can dial it to 20 yards or go all the way down to 80 yards. And you're dead on. You're going to have a sight tape. You sight in at 20, you sight in at 60, and you determine which tape to put on there right from the package. And then you're on 0 to 80 yards or 0 to 100 yards. The only thing of it is, if you're drawing a deer at 20 yards and now you don't have the shot and he runs to 60 or even 30, you're not going to let down and readjust.
Yeah.
So now a lot of these companies are doing a 2-pin or a 3-pin adjustable, so you have more options.
Well, at that point, why don't you just stick with a fixed multi-pin sight?
I hear you. I'm a multi-pin guy. I'm probably the only one in the archery department that still shoots a 4-pin sight. I'm one not for adjusting.
All right, so 4 pins. What are your pins set at? What distance?
I start at 20. I skip 30 and go right to 40. I'll use my 30-yard. My 30-yard pin is I gap shoot 20 to 40.
Gotcha.
I don't like my pins tight together. My eyes are getting bad, so I like to keep them spread out, and it's really accurate.
Well, speaking of eyes getting bad and archers getting older. What about one of these real high tech things that's almost like a scope, and they've got range finders built into it and all this other stuff?
Oh gosh, yeah, Garmin has the range finding site. If that's what you're,
I think that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
you can press the button; it'll put the yardage on the screen, and it'll move the pen for you exactly the right yardage.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It adds a little weight to the bow. They're not super light, but it will add a little more weight to the front of the bow.
Well, and I might be putting you in a tough situation, and I apologize in advance. But is something like that, is that the real deal, or is that marketing hype?
No, it's the real deal. It works. Like I say, it is a battery operated deal too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been one guy not for relying on the battery always being working too. I'm still a guy that likes to have the pens, and it's always going to be there.
be Murphy's Law, right? Because when you need that, if something can go wrong, it probably will.
Correct.
So, Kevin, if we want to come in now and get our bow worked on, what's your advice? Get here now and start to get patient?
Yes. If you can, try to get here during the week, because weekends are extremely busy. I know everybody works. That's their time to come in is on the weekends. So if they can, be patient. We'll get to it. And the main thing the guys are looking for right now for like a tuning issue is a paper tune. You know, bring your own arrow. Bring one good arrow, and we'll make sure it's the right arrow before we even shoot through the paper.
Well, if you're going to paper tune, that's something that's going to happen while your guy is there, right? You're not going to drop the bow off and let you guys paper tune it. Okay.
Correct. I typically shoot it myself if I can. And then if it's on, I'm going to hand it to him and make sure he does the same thing.
Yep.
If he doesn't do the same thing, I'm tuning the bow to him at that point.
I gotcha. Kevin, you've brought up so many interesting points, and I do appreciate it. I would encourage people to stop by Jay's in Clair, the archery department, say hi to Kevin, or if you're up around Gaylord, stop by the Gaylord store as well. And if you just want to learn more about Jay's, check out the website, jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. Thank you, Kevin. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. Lots more coming up. Stay with us. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. Just down the road in Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. Way down the road, WSJM 94.9 in St. Joe. Let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Escanaba, the Riviera of the North, WCHT 600 AM, 95.3 FM. I got a little behind on these. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now, as I am every week, to record this week's show. I'm here with Pat Johnston, doing a wonderful job as always. Pat, I do certainly appreciate it. When we get done here in a few minutes, we will record this week's Offshore Tackle podcast. We're going to talk with some crappie fishermen this time around. Oh, so what is going on? I enjoyed that conversation with Kevin Pritchard. Kevin's a really good guy there at Jay's. In fact, I think all the people there at Jay's are good folks. And some, interesting information about not waiting till the last minute, because it's almost getting to be the last minute to get ready for bow season. It's not like gun hunting. Even crossbow hunting, you've still got to put a little bit of time behind the tool. Being a crossbow or recurve or compound, whatever. Speaking of tools here, I pun intended, actually, when you think about it. There was a spot in this previous segment there for Brenton USA hunting rifles. An AR-style hunting rifle. And when you see what the people in Washington are trying to do right now, it drives me absolutely bonkers. and I've been saying this for a while, a gun is just a tool. You know, you can do evil with a hammer, just like you can do good with a hammer. You can do evil with a gun, or you can do good with a gun. You can target shoot with a gun. You can hunt with a gun. It's not the gun. It's the tool. So when I see him start to try to single out things like AR, and honestly, those people in Washington that are trying to do this are they're either ignorant or they're deceitful. And I would bet that most of them have never shot an AR and really don't know what an AR is. They think an AR is like an assault rifle, right? You pull a trigger and multiple rounds are fired. Well, obviously that's not the case. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very excited to take my Brenton AR-style 350 Legend to the UP this fall on a Michigan bear hunt to show how it can be used as a tool, just like an old Remington or a Winchester or anything else. But before then, I am heading to White River on a bear hunt. Since I'm blessed to have 2 bear hunts this year, one in Ontario and one in Michigan, I don't go to Ontario, and this is going to sound a little bit crazy if you're not a hunter. I'm not going to Ontario on this bear hunt with the intent of shooting a bear. Well, Avery, that's crazy. You're going bear hunting. Of course you're going to want to shoot a bear. Not necessarily. In the Avery family, we eat and give away about a bear a year. So my intent is to try to shoot my first Michigan bear with that Brenton 350 Legend. So it would take a very special bear to get me to put an arrow through it in Ontario. It would have to be a very big black-colored black bear, or it would have to be a color black bear. Now, it's kind of confusing. And you'll hear people say, well, it's a color phase bear. It's not a phase. If a black bear is something other than black, and it could be blonde or cinnamon or whatever the color is, it's not a phase. It doesn't change from black to blonde to cinnamon. No, that's the color of the bear. So it's not a color phase. That's the color of that black bear. If I had a shot opportunity at a decent size black bear of a color other than black, I might take that animal just because I think it would be a beautiful mount. Now, keep in mind, we will eat the meat too. I wouldn't be shooting it just for the fact of making a mount out of it. Because we like bear meat. We love bear brats on the grill. In fact, as I'm sitting here in the studio around lunchtime, that sounds pretty good for dinner tonight. Maybe I'll do that tonight. Put some bear brats on the grill. What else? I really basically have wrapped up my summertime Saginaw Bay walleye fishing because I'm making the mental and physical transition now into a bear hunting trip. But we ended on a high note. The walleye fishing on Saginaw Bay is holding up so very nicely this summer. Surface temps about 75 degrees, and the fish are all over the bay. Some years in the past, the fish would be gone by now. They'd be headed out to deeper water. But no, we're getting good numbers of nice size fish. As an observer of the Saginaw Bay walleye fishery, since they revitalized that fishery many, many years ago, I'm so pleased to see it going the way that it is. Still a lot of good fishing out there. I just will probably not be taking advantage of it here, at least for the next couple of weeks. And just a reminder, too, this segment of Outdoor Magazine has been brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard, as they have for me. This past week, I've had 2 different crews from Reader at the house. One to work on the water feature, and the other to do some trimming of the trees at the corner of the house. And they've done a great job, always, as they have for me, and they will for you. ReaderLandscaping.com. That's ReaderLandscaping.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this week's show with wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Thank you so much for joining me this week here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. My name is Mike Avery, and it is a pleasure, an honor, and a blessing to be able to sit at this microphone for 3 hours each week talking about the outdoors, hunting and fishing, shooting and trapping, conservation issues, wildlife issues. And if you've been with me before, you know that I wrap up each week's show with some wild game cooking. Now, listen, I'm no expert on wild game cooking. I might consider myself an expert on eating wild game cooking, but I'm certainly no expert on cooking things up. But you know me. You know that I have a good friend, wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar, who helps us wrap up each week's show, as he is once again this week. David, welcome back. How are you?
Actually, very good. And how about yourself, Michael?
I'm doing great. I had some wonderful fishing trips here the last few days, getting ready to go to Ontario on a bear hunt, and all is good in my world, David. Thank you.
Oh, good. I hope you get a bear and we can do a few bear recipes.
Well, I'm thinking I've got 2 bear hunting trips this year, and we probably wouldn't eat 2 bears. I really want to take a bear in Michigan because I haven't yet, so I might be going to Ontario mostly just for the fun of it and to watch bears, but maybe not to shoot one. But it is my intent to try to shoot one this fall for sure.
Well, good for you. Good for you.
But in the meantime, Dave, there's some great fishing. You know, in the old days, you and I used to be over on Lake Michigan this time of year, chasing salmon. And there's some great salmon fishing coming up. You got a salmon recipe, maybe?
I sure do. I got a salmon chowder.
Ooh, beautiful.
And the salmon, and we've been featuring salmon chowder Fridays for the last couple of weeks at the restaurant. So this is going to make about a gallon or maybe a gallon and a quarter of chowder. So usually I make around 15 or 18 gallons at a time. I got a large pot. But we got to neck it down a little. So you're going to need about 3 pounds of salmon. You're going to dice it into cubes. But in the meantime, you're going to boil the carcasses in water for about 15 or 20 minutes. Rinse all the blood off of the fish. Let it cool, and then you can dip the carcasses out and take the meat flakes off the bone and save that because you're going to add that to this chowder too. So you're going to strain the stock through a hair fine sieve and to get the bones and the scales out. And then we're going to use milk in this dish. So you're going to use about half milk and half stock, and that'll give you a lot of flavor. So in the meantime, you're going to dice up, or you're going to take 2 onions, about 3 or 4 stalks of celery, 3/4 of a pound of bacon, and grind that into a nice heavy 8-quart or so larger stock pan, heavy bottom. And you're going to get that in there. You're going to add the butter, which is about, I would say 3/4 to 1 pound of butter. And you're going to cook that very, very slowly so you don't scorch it. Stir it quite often. So then you're going to take, maybe, I would say 2 pounds of flour. You're going to start off with half of that, and you're going to mix that in with a real heavy spoon because you want to get this thick, about the consistency of mashed potatoes. And so you're going to cook that down with just barely a little bit of fire for about 10 to 15 minutes. You want to do that because the milk is going to be the liquid and the stock. And so you want to get this nice and hot, the milk and the stock together at the same time, however much you want to make. And then when you get this nice and bubbly, it's not really going to be bubbling, I guess. You're just going to cook it to get that starchy flavor from the flour. So with a heavy whisk or a big spoon, you're going to add the milk to this roux, that's what you call it because it's got flour and butter in it. And it's going to not thicken up right away, but it's going to take a minute or two of stirring. You want to get all of them lumps out of there. And then when you get it all like that, like I said, it's going to be a nice, thick, real robust-looking stock. And then you're going to add the potatoes, and you're going to simmer that gently, just barely a roll. You don't want to scorch this for about 10 minutes or 12 minutes. And then when the potatoes are almost done, you're going to mix in this salmon. You don't want to mix it too hard and too vigorously. You just want to let it kind of cook a little bit because the salmon's in small pieces, and it's going to cook up in a flash, basically. So You could add white pepper to it a little bit if you like, and if you like it a little spicy, put a little cayenne to it. There's numerous versions of this that you could make, and I'll tell you what, it's killer. I've made this with pike too, so
it sounds
great.
wonderful. And you know I'm putting lots of black pepper in mine.
Yes, you could grate a lot of black pepper into it on your bowl when you're eating this.
Oh,
nice
yeah.
French bread, yummy.
Yeah, salmon chowder, and I don't know. I kind of think of it as more of a cold weather dish, but maybe not, Dave.
No, we sell it all summer long.
Do you?
We make it in smaller batches, of course, but every Friday night we have salmon chowder.
And where would we find you, David?
Well, Oscar and Joey's Roadhouse on the corner of Birch Run and Dixie Highway.
And that's why we call him. And that's why we call him Chef Dixie Dave Minar, because he's on Dixie Highway. Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. David, I appreciate it as always, and that chowder recipe sounds so good. And listen, thanks for joining me on this week's Outdoor Magazine show. I would encourage you to join me during the week on my social media outlets. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I post a lot on Facebook. I post quite a bit on YouTube. I post a lot on Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me with any question, comment, criticism, and concern, my email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.